Every deck of playing cards feels a little bit different in your hands. Playing cards are printed on different types of paper, they're pressed different ways and printed by all sorts of different companies. So these are the top 5 decks for the best handling. Coming in at number 5, we have the Turtle Bay playing cards by Water Wheel USA. This deck of cards right here is the second thinnest deck of playing cards in my collection. It farrows beautifully, it's still super snappy and not on the buttery side too far. It honestly just hits every one of the right marks. This is why this deck right here is at number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have the Slow Hands V1 by Kier Gomes and Nick Nisko. This deck right here is on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's definitely going to be on the thicker side of playing cards, where it is printed on a thicker stock of paper. But this time, instead of being extremely snappy, it's going to be more on the buttery side, where it's much better suited for things like Under Pressure. Still super beautiful. This one right here, when it comes to handling, number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have the Z deck by the December Boys. This deck is just a little bit thinner than a standard bicycle deck of playing cards, but it is still extremely snappy, extremely great to use, and it is my favorite deck for cardistry. So I'm not going to have my favorite deck of cardistry be one that does not handle well. This deck right here is number 3. Coming in at number 2, which not a ton of people would probably guess to be on this list unless you've seen last year's video, the Oblique playing cards by Card Cuts. I love the stock and feel of this deck the same way that the Z deck is just slightly thinner than a deck of bicycle playing cards. This one is slightly thicker, but it still has that nice snappiness to it that gives you that beautiful sound when you dribble it. I mean, honestly, this deck hits all the right spots. Coming in at number 2, Oblique playing cards. Now before we get into number 1, we're going to have 2 runner-ups. First of which is the Play Cards by Doc's Playing Cards. This deck of playing cards right here I've had for a number of years now, and it is the perfect middle-of-the-line snappy deck. I haven't ever had a deck of my cards that can stand the test of time like this deck. Is the perfect deck when it comes to the right amount of snappiness that I like when it comes to both springs and backdrop and everything else within that. And honestly, it hasn't had a competitor when it comes to how beautifully this deck can farrow. Coming in at number 7, the Playa playing cards. This one I put in every year because of how unexpected it is and still how beautiful it can handle. Number 6 is the Jimmy Fallon playing cards. 311, although it does produce great playing cards and feel great, this one somehow exceeds all of the rest. This one is the most snappy deck. Like the last one, what I was talking about, it does have a lot of snappy to it, but it is not a snappy deck. That's pretty much all this one has. This deck right here only has snappiness to it. It definitely has some buttery whatsoever, but not really. It's not really, when I think of this deck of cards, the only thing I'm thinking of is how I'm going to spring it, how I'm going to back palm it, how I'm going to backdrop and hot shot this deck. It's honestly the greatest deck of cards when it comes to anything like that. It's just freaking beautiful to handle. Number 6, Jimmy Fallon. Now before we get into number 1, just know that a lot of these decks of playing cards are going to be 10% off with code cardperfectmagician. So make sure to check out the description, save some money, and if you want to check out any of the full reviews, they will be down there as well so you can check out all these playing cards. But as we get into number 1, this is the Virtuoso Fall Winter 17s. Surprising to literally no one, this deck of playing cards right here has been known throughout the cardistry and Magic and everything playing cards community as the best playing cards handling deck ever. It definitely has a lot of snappy and buttery to it where you can do all sorts of moves from Under Pressure to backdrop to everything else. But honestly, the place that I really love to describe this deck when it comes to, well, if I were to describe this as somebody who's never held playing cards before, it's soft. Whether it comes to farrowing this deck of playing cards or doing something like Cascade, it honestly cannot handle better. This is the thinnest deck in my collection and without question, the best handling deck I've ever held. There's a reason that as of right now, Virtuoso is the cardistry brand. But if you disagree and think another deck can beat the Virtuoso Fall Winter 17s, let me know down in the comments. And make sure to subscribe if you love all types of top 5 videos. But if you want to check out last year's top 5 videos for best handling, you can check that out right there. And the entire top 5 playlist from last year right there. Again, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell because I'm putting out these types of videos all month long. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is Card Perfect, signing off.